Good morning, Digit fam. Adam Dowd here, coming at you with two things: a fistful of all the tech news you need to know, and two shoulders that I've taken 6 Advil for. This podcast not sponsored by Advil. It turns out you really should stretch before playing Beat Saber. Lesson learned. But for now, it is August 6, 2019, and this is your Digit Daily. So today's top story is going to be divided into 2 sections. Section A will focus on the details that have been released. The second section will focus on my interpretation of those details, which nobody else, as far as I can see, has come up with. So, without further ado, LG has something cooking for IFA 2019. The phone maker dropped a video on YouTube today teasing it. I'll describe the video first. There's a little dude in an 8-bit game, which gives me a throwback to the SoundGuys podcast, who just did a show on the history of sound in video games. Link in the show notes. Anyway, this little dude moves around a board and collects things like a gamepad, like from a Nintendo, and then a camera. Then a second screen opens up and the little dude walks onto a path on the second screen to IFA 2019. Then the second screen closes and shows a little appointment window thing showing 10 o'clock on Friday, September 6th. I know, way too subtle for me. So what does this mean? Here's what everyone else is reporting. LG will release a phone with a case that adds a second screen. This phone will be optimized for gaming and for camera. No surprise there, the LG V60 is due up next for LG, and the V series of phones have always been focused on camera and creators. The gaming aspect could indicate it's using Qualcomm's Snapdragon 855 chip, which Qualcomm introduced as a chip for gaming phones. We also suspect this phone will be 5G capable and have a headphone jack, and if that were all LG had to say, this wouldn't be much of a story. But let's dig a little bit deeper, and yes, I have linked to the video in the show notes, and yes, you certainly should watch it because of what I'm about to say. But first, disclaimers. I have a tendency to be naive AF about some things, and I tend to take things at face value. I don't read much subtext. If you show me a thing, I'm going to take the best possible view of that thing. Now, when it comes to Facebook or GasBuddy, that best possible interpretation is still pretty crappy, but I digress. The second disclaimer is that nobody, absolutely zero other outlets that I have found with my admittedly short 10 minutes of Googling, are reporting on this theory. So I'm doubting the hell out of myself right now. So in case you haven't seen the video yet, imagine you're looking down at a book that is closed and you can only see the cover. The game is being played on that cover, or so it seems. But at the 4-second mark of this video, the cover of the book opens and you can see through it to the game that is playing on what looked to be the cover but is actually the next page, meaning the cover of the book, or the cover of the phone case in this case, is transparent and becomes a second screen when it is opened. Watch the video at the 4-second mark. Taken at face value, that's what we're looking at here. Now, whether or not that's actually the case, I don't know. I don't work at LG, but I'm going to say that based on this video, the second screen of the LG phone will be a transparent case that can turn onto a screen when it's opened. I'll also follow this up by saying that this is probably a terrible idea. Using a phone screen as a phone case cover is not a good idea. That's why you need to put covers on your phone screens, especially when it's a phone screen that's capable of this kind of tech. I might be wrong, but if I am, then LG's marketing department is either incompetent or deceptive, neither of which sits well with me. So I'm taking the best possible interpretation of this imagery, and I'm doomed to be disappointed 1 month from now. Or I'll be the first one who called it. Could go either way, but for now, the only way we're gonna go is into the roundup! HTC was forced to suspend sales of its Desire 12 smartphone in the UK. Now I know what you're thinking. HTC sells smartphones? And that's a cheap joke and I won't have it. It seems HTC violated a patent back in 2012 and was supposed to use a workaround to allow phone sales to continue, which it did up until the Desire 12 for some reason. Only now, instead of just suspending sales of a Desire 12, HTC is taking its ball and going home, suspending all smartphone sales in the UK, which probably makes sense. Somehow. Speaking of bad decisions, Huawei decided to run a poll on Twitter. A fun little question: Who do you think owns Huawei? The idea was to show that Huawei is owned by its employees. A follow-up video on the account showed that 96% of Huawei is owned by employees or something like that. Unfortunately, the social media manager genius who wrote the poll included the government as a choice, and 42% of the vote later, well, yeah. Huawei was decent enough to leave the poll up and not delete it in order to hide it, so in that respect, good for you, Huawei, but yeah, seriously, not a good idea. It's not often that those of us stuck in podcast or newsletter land get to review something, so when we do, we highlight it. Tristan took the Nanoleaf canvas tiles for a spin. These are smart lights that form a pattern of sorts on your wall and light up with Google Assistant or Alexa. They're not the cheapest accent lighting you can buy, but they might be some of the coolest and most versatile. Check out Tristan's review and maybe pick some up for yourself. Elon Musk has often said that Tesla cars will be capable of full self-driving by the end of 2020, which is a bold claim considering that they decidedly don't do that right now. But Musk has a project called Dojo, which may be able to train autopilot systems very quickly using tons of video footage captured by vehicles on the road. So far, Elon has been somewhat elusive on what exactly Dojo will do or how it will help, but if that's true, it could give Tesla a leg up on some of its competitors. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, congratulations, you probably don't have Xfinity Internet. Xfinity is suffering a nationwide outage with roughly a dozen or so hotspots completely down. Those hotspots include Seattle, San Francisco, Chicago, Atlanta, Miami, Houston, New York, and Washington, D.C., so basically anywhere that there's people. Of course, it also includes Colorado, where there are not. The Matrix is returning to theaters to try to unseat Avatar as the biggest selling movie of all time. Wait, sorry, wrong franchise. The Matrix is returning to theaters in celebration of its 20th anniversary. Wait, 20 years? Hang on a second. Matrix released 1999? Christ, I'm old. And finally, remember the Beresheet lunar mission we talked about back in April? Well, it turns out after the craft crashed, it may have spilled tardigrades onto the lunar surface, and they're probably still there. Tardigrades are microscopic water bears and are incredibly resilient and can survive in the vacuum of space. They're dehydrated at the moment, so they won't be taking over the moon. They'll need to be returned to Earth before they can become active again, or so scientists would lead you to believe. I think moon bears are going to become a thing, but then I also think that LG has developed a transparent phone case, so what do I know? So that's going to do it for today's Digit Daily. If you'd like to learn more about any of these stories, check out the links in the show notes and subscribe to our daily newsletter on Digit.com. And if you like what you heard, subscribe, leave a review, and don't forget to tell your friends about DigitDailyPod.com. Once again, I'm Adam Dowd, Dead Technology on Twitter, and we'll talk again tomorrow.